Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Focus TV. A lot has happened in sports. Wild weekend in the NFL. Octavia's going to get to that a little bit later. There's madness going on in sports, period. We're going to debut some new digital stuff this week. It just hit me that DC United officially starts tomorrow.
Oh,
so that's great.
I swear we was just talking about that. They was just
like 2 weeks ago, I was like, it's about to happen, and
now it's happening.
Courtesy of a great email, I was like, hey, I'm talking to Sam again. This means it's here again. All right, so on tonight, we got if you follow us on social media, you guys already know what it is. If you do not, welcome to the Focus TV. And we have a very special guest today. It's going to be one of those shows where we're going to take advantage of the time that we have to talk to the guests that we do have, because this is informative. This is an opportunity for you to take in a lot of information, dispel some, just
Mythbusters.
Lies.
we want to just clear up some things.
Yeah, just call them lies. Just call them what they are.
You're right. No fake news, just straight lies. Call it lies. Into this profession and why it's so important to, everyone tunes in to watch their favorite basketball player in the league. And none of this stuff on court happens if their body's not right. So we're going to start there. Going to introduce to you guys Mr. Vincent Williams, strength and conditioning coach for the Capital City Go-Go. If you don't know what the Capital City Go-Go yet, you're definitely very new to the show.
Living under a rock.
It's the G League affiliate in their first year underneath the Washington Wizards, part of the G League. All right, so Vincent, want to start? We see there's a lot of synergy between, the parent team, G League team. Does that carry over, or how does it carry over to what you do in terms of the strength and conditioning portion of it as well?
Absolutely. It all started, I got a call from Wizards head strength coach. He also got hired this year, Blair O'Donovan. Very well respected trainer. I knew of him as I was coming up through the ranks. He gave me a call back in October and wanted me to come on and oversee the G League team, also assist him with the Wizards as well. So we speak weekly, sometimes daily, as far as what we want from our guys. Obviously, we have our two-way guys, our affiliates, that they started with him during preseason. So obviously we're trying to carry that over to what we do with the Go-Go. The way we train, the emphasis we put on movement, some of the lifts that we use, the Wizards are doing it, we're doing it. We track the numbers on them so we can see from the top guy with the Wizards all the way down to the Go-Go, how our guys match up as far as our pros go. So a lot of synergy, same way. The coaches have synergy, same plays. The scout reports look the same. There's synergy all throughout both organizations. So just great to be a part of. Glad he brought me on board.
Octavia?
So of course, with the whole strength and conditioning, aspect nowadays we see that it's a very saturated market.
Tell me about it.
So I'm interested to know what started you on your path to be a strength and conditioning coach.
So I actually started. I went to Towson. Graduated in 2011. When I graduated, I couldn't tell you that I was going to be a strength and conditioning coach. I honestly could not. Graduated, worked jobs here and there. Met up with a guy that was working at a physical therapy clinic, Naveen, who's also with the Wizards. He's part of the Wizards athletic training staff. So met up with him. He started showing me some of the things that I needed to sort of educate myself on. Around 2013, Washington Post did an article on University of Maryland basketball, their strength coach, Kyle Tarp. So the way he integrated movement, the way he integrated basketball into strength and conditioning, after reading the article, watching the video, I was like, that's what I want to do. So reached out to him. I've reached out to several strength coaches. I would say, he's the only one who's ever emailed me back. So he emailed me back. He said, I'm not looking for an intern right now. He said, email me back at the end of our season. I emailed him back at the end of their season. And he brought me on in June of 2014, showed me all the ropes. I interned for 2 seasons. So got to see how he trained, how he programmed. He came from under another basketball-specific strength and conditioning coach, Todd Wright, who was at Texas for 25 years. He's now the Philadelphia Sixers strength and conditioning coach. So I kind of consider myself part of that tree. So from Todd to Cal, and I'm sort of under Cal's sort of tree, but we all kind of train the same way. Three-dimensional movement. We'll talk about it more later on in the show. But that's, once I saw Cal train, I said that's what I want to do. So that's how I got started.
All right, so we talked about just a little bit in the opening. What's one of the biggest misconceptions people have about what you do, that field, as soon as they find out what your profession is?
Bigger, faster, stronger. That's not what it is anymore. It's about having guys available to play. When you take the bigger, obviously, yes, I do want to get guys bigger, faster, and stronger, but what good is it if I can have a guy average a double-double, give me 20 and 10, 99 out? I'm not going to push him in the weight room to get bigger, faster, stronger. It's going to be a detriment to his game. So if I can have him on the court every night to give me that 20 and 10, I can care less about the bigger, faster, stronger. I can care less what he benches, what he squats. That's the biggest misconception as far as strength and conditioning goes today. It's changing. It is changing for the better. There are still some of the old school coaches who still have that mentality. I'm not one of them. I wasn't trained that way. You know, the coaches who I consider colleagues, you know, they would look down on me if I started to train that way as well. So that's the biggest misconception that I think is in the field right now.
So once again, with all the different trainers that's coming out nowadays, are there any things that you see that you wish people would not do? And, you know, some things that could, in your opinion, be a detriment to players, or some things that some trainers need to kind of brush up on?
I honestly wish trainers didn't have social media. I honestly wish trainers did not have Twitter, did not have social, did not have Instagram, did not have Facebook, because what happens is they put it out there, they put the content out there. I have a certain way that I train, so when I was training private, kids come to me, I want to do this. Do you want to die? You know,
that's not the goal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's not what you should be doing. Like, that guy's been training, you know, however many years. His training age is way past what you are right now. These are the basics that you need to focus on right now. You know, it would be great if you got to that one day, but for right now, these are the things that you need to master before you can even think about touching the barbell and jumping over a hurdle and sticking it on a bow suit. Like, that's, you know, that's not what training is. That's not what your focus should be on. But yeah, I honestly wish a lot of trainers did not have, or if you actually report it, you could like, don't you know, you can report like somebody, like a regular post, like if I reported, they would like take their page. You know, I wish there was some sort of counsel for that on social media, because it makes my job tough. It honestly does. Like, you know, I was, even athletes who come to me now, you know, I saw such and such doing, you know, such and such balance drill. Okay, do you know why he was doing it? You know, what was the premise behind him doing it? You know, just, you can't just throw a video up there and not explain why a guy's doing it, you know, just because it looks cool. Like, it's too much out there. There's people are going for looks. You know, it's give me some substance.
Right.
Why are we doing this drill?
It's a great way to segue into Cardinals.
Because I know you're going to get all into it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just listening now.
When you was at Coppin, I want you to kind of touch on how hard it is to keep the, you know, you train the men's and women's basketball team.
Yes.
All right, to keep both teams up to par, you know, for the entire season with less resources, being a smaller D1.
Oh man, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. I got the opportunity. Coach Dixon gave me a call in August. We were together in Maryland, obviously. So he wanted to bring that culture over to Coppin as well. So came in, got started late there too. I probably only had 4 weeks to really like just train the athletes before practice started, so we didn't really get a chance to do much. But those 4 weeks we just hit the ground running, and then I just kind of spent the season just kind of surveying the land, you know, seeing what we could do, you know, what would work. Luckily, because we're all a smaller school, we got the chance to use some of our guaranteed money to put back into our strength and conditioning program. So that was huge for me. So then when we did get to the spring, I was able to purchase equipment and use some of those resources from those guaranteed games to help our players develop. Of course, with the budget being smaller, that's where you have to be really selective as far as what equipment you purchase.
Right.
They did have equipment there, but again, to add to sort of the way that we train, there was certain pieces that I absolutely needed to have. So you just learn to be real selective and get real creative as well. You learn multiple uses for things, that pieces of equipment that you were buying for one drill, you learn that they work for other drills, So I got real creative in that sense, and then that was just the biggest thing. Kyle at Maryland, I talked to him. He told me when I was at Maryland, I also trained Gwynn Park High School.
Okay.
So when I was there, even less resources, definitely less resources than in Maryland.
Yeah.
So he told me, he said, I was talking to him about the laying up that weight room. He's like, man, you're spoiled. And so I was like, I'm spoiled. I sort of looked at myself, I was like, yeah, I am spoiled. This is not me. So then I sort of went back to it, and you get creative. You kind of, it was like, it hurt your pride a little bit. I'm not spoiled. I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of brought that approach when I got to Coppin. I knew it was going to be limited, but we made it work. We had a great off season. Guys changed their bodies, put in a lot of hard work. I look at somebody like the Power 5 schools, some of those strength coaches, how they put out their progress videos and their progress photos, and I'll put our guys right up next to them. Look, we did it here. And then the great part about it is when I was there, recruits would come in on visits, and I would say, look, we're doing it here. You don't have to go to a Power 5 school to transform your body. We're doing it right here at Coppin State. So big shout out to him for that opportunity.
How hard was it to transform their bodies nutrition-wise? Because low D1s and being a college student.
It was
late
tough.
night McDonald's run.
Yeah, it was tough. The biggest thing for me was I had both teams and I didn't have an assistant. So each day I went in, I had to make sure that everything was done way ahead of time. So I had to make sure the shapes were done. There were sometimes, if we finished the session, I would jet down. I would make the shakes myself because I wanted the guys to develop.
Yeah.
My passion is to help guys. I wanted them to see them, play basketball, as long as they can. So there were a lot of situations. I can't think of how many shakes I made when I was there.
Right.
But you see the benefits of it.
Right.
Guys are ripped, guys are adding mass, guys are getting leaner. So I'm happy.
Talk about the process and getting hired as a strength and conditioning coach for the Go, because I'm pretty sure it was a lot of guys and women trying to get their job once they, it became official they was going to start this year or whatnot, kind of be under the Wizards organization, especially in this area where it's so deep.
Absolutely.
With strength and conditioning coaches, trainers and stuff. So, talk about that process and how you ended up finally getting a job out of beating out all those people.
Yeah, I had my eye on a go-go job as soon as I heard that they were going to start the G League franchise in DC.
Mm-hmm.
I had my eye on it. I will say that. Again, I knew people who were within the organization already, so I would kind of stay in contact with them just to see, what the organization was thinking as far as that position. I took my opportunities as well. I didn't stop, what I was doing as far as my matriculation, but definitely had an eye on that job. Once it presented itself, it was a no-brainer for me. I'm born and raised here. I remember going to Bullets games over at the Cap Center. Over at Landover Mall. So, for me, this is a dream come true, honestly. Just to be part of this organization. The interview process was nerve-wracking. I will say that. Meeting with the Wizards brass, people you've seen from far off, and you sit down in a room, and they're right there in front of you. They're saying, how are you going to help our organization? That's definitely a career milestone for me. But they've been great. They've been helpful. They want to see me grow as well. So the interview process, Blair brought me in 2 days after he called me. Yeah, he called me on Saturday. And asked me if I could come in on Monday because the Go-Go were going through their preseason stuff. They asked me if I could come through, just do a small exhibition. I said, how about Tuesday? I gotta give myself some time to prepare for this. I've never worked at the pro level before, so Got a chance to gather my thoughts, talk to some of my colleagues, like what are they looking for, what's it like, just be yourself, just be yourself, you know your stuff, just be confident. That's the biggest things guys want to see at that level is like, do you know what you're doing? So I just went in on Tuesday. They had like a small practice going on, just warming the guys up like I normally would, anybody else. Finished that off. Got a lot of great feedback from staff and the coaches. Then got a call back from front office. They brought me back for an in-person interview, and then I was offered a job all within the course of a week. So, yeah, definitely a memorable experience for me.
With the Wizards, one thing Scott Brooks, and this is one of the things I love about him, he emphasized player development.
Absolutely.
Across the league, a lot of teams just were like, man, you got it now, you don't. We got to get rid of you. We're going to bring somebody in that we think of. So he emphasized, player development.
Yeah.
So that means there's even more pressure on guys at the go-go to do, develop, because if guys go down, they got to move up and fill that spot. So how much is it day-to-day, kind of having that spotlight on whereas, you in charge of making sure these players have to be ready to go just in case they get called up?
Yeah. It's a job I don't take lightly. We've already had really happy for Chase Randall. That's a guy that I learned from. I'll say that when I got the job, just seeing how he took care of his body again. I want to learn from him just as much. I want to learn from him pretty much because I've never been at the pro level. Chase is a guy, he's been in and out of the NBA, he's been overseas, won a EuroLeague championship. So he was a guy that I really watched as far as his approach, how he took care of his body. Something that I'm trying to get other players to understand and realize just how important it is. Coach Brooks' philosophy is definitely player development. Coming from Maryland, that's what we were all about. It's player development. It's a huge part of Coach Terzi's program. So I've kind of been in their culture for a while. I think the biggest thing for guys is just to get them in a routine. Just getting them to understand just exactly what strength and conditioning can be for them. It's not the bigger, faster, stronger approach. It's a holistic approach. So it's not just training. Yes, it is training, but it's also what you eat after you train. It's how you sleep. How much sleep are you getting? What are you doing after practice? Are you getting in the ice bath? Are you getting the boots? Are you getting treatment? It's different aspects. It's not just what you do in the weight room. What do you do before practice? How do you warm up? Do you warm up with a lift? How do you stretch? All of these things go into player development. And so getting the guys in the routine and just seeing all of the things that can impact their game, that's the biggest part that I wanted to help the players with in my position.
Okay. For aspiring trainers, kids in college trying to do the same thing that's watching, just give them a kind of a example of a day-to-day grind of, what you do.
G League? Oh, what I do?
Yeah.
Okay. So I typically try to get to the facility 2-3 hours before practice, and I typically stay 2 to 3 hours after practice. Once I get to the facility, I'll meet with our athletic trainer just to get a scope of where guys are at, health-wise. If guys have certain injuries they need to get treatment for, if there are certain exercises they want to stay away from, when they do come into the weight room. I'll lift myself if I have time, so I'll knock that out. Guys will start trickling in. They'll start trickling into the weight room. Whatever the program is for the day, depending on where we're at in the week. Typically, we'll hit some of our heavier stuff or some of our more power-based exercises the day after an off day. Reason being, your body's had the chance to recover. So if you want to train for a specific adaptation, I think that's another thing people miss out on is like when you're training for power, you don't want to be in a fatigue state, or there's not going to be an adaptation. So we'll train power typically right after an off day. If we're closer to a game, if we're right before a game, we'll do something I call like a lower threshold workout, single leg work, balance work, movement-based type stuff, just something just to get their body going, get them ready for the next day. Those will be like what our lifts will look like before practice. Once practice starts, we do something called a wake-up series, which is pretty cool, I think. We don't go right to a stretch, so we might start with just individual skill work, ball handling, shooting, floaters. We'll do that for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then I'll come in, guys are already warm, so it's easier to stretch them out. I'll hit a stretch, whatever I come up with for that day. We'll do that for 5 to 10 minutes. They'll go into practice, however long practice is. I typically like to watch practice to see where guys are at, see how guys are feeling. Right. If a guy's fatigued, if a guy played a lot of minutes the night before, just to see where their body's at. I'll probably watch the first 20 minutes of practice. Then I'll go off and I'll start playing the meals out. So like we're going on the road. Like next week we go play in Toronto. So I'll go like see what the restaurants are in that area so I can plan out pre and post game meals. I'll knock that out. I'll knock out nutrition shakes for guys. So if guys need to add weight or maintain the weight that they're at, I'll get them on the shake, make their shake, make sure that's prepared, make sure that's in their locker. Guys will finish practice. If guys want to get treatment, if guys want to get stretched out. Sometimes guys want to lift after practice. Totally cool with that as well. If guys want to lift after practice, again, going back to knowing what the practice plan was, if it was a day that guys were really getting up and down, probably not the best day to do a lot of power-based stuff, right? So these are all things, people think, you're just throwing weight on the bar and, go after it. You really have to account for everything that's going on that day. As a guy sit, do we have a lot of travel coming up? Before you just, say go squat 350, you got to know all of the things, that could be affecting a guy not being able to get 350 up, So strength and conditioning has come a long way. It still has a long way to go. But those are all the things that go into a day. And then when you finish, you go home, and then you still jump on your laptop and you're programming for the next day and the day after that. You might try a new exercise out. You might have hated it. You might have liked it. So if you liked it, you write it down and use it another day. If you hated it, you figure out why you hated it. What tweaks can you make? How can you coach it differently? So these are all things you're always constantly going over. And then your wife taps you on the shoulder and says, get off the phone, get off the laptop, I'm here.
I know that feeling. Yeah, definitely know that feeling.
Yeah.
During the game.
Yes.
So what do you do during the game as a strength and conditioning coach? Like timeouts, obviously pregame, halftime, post-game, stuff like that.
Absolutely. I love game day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a time to see your work go into action. Our game days start with, depending on the day, we'll start with shoot around. So we'll warm the guys up before shoot around. Chance to sort of set the tone, for that shoot around. Shoot around is typically an hour. Guys will leave the facility, go take a nap, wherever it is. Our pregame starts 2 hours before tip.
Right.
We have rotating groups. I'll take guys through different mobility drills, different activation series, different movement stuff, just to get them prepped for their on-court workout right after I'm finished. We'll do that that's the 2 hours before the game. I'll finish an hour before the game. After the hour before the game, shout out to Ben Kenyon. Todd Ford said there was an article on ESPN talking about the Portland Trailblazers and their use of coffee, because Portland has the highest miles traveled because of where they're located in the region. Mm-hmm. So they travel a lot. So Portland, they have a great training culture already. But one of the things they use is coffee, just black coffee, like straight black coffee, no cream, no sugar. And guys will drink that pregame to help boost their energy level because of the caffeine. So it's something I've adopted with our players. So I'll pour coffee shots. Guys we started it probably within the last week and a half, and guys have really taken to it. I was shocked, honestly. So I just pour coffee shots. Like, hey, do you want a shot? You want a coffee shot? Guys will take it before the game. And that within that hour before the game, guys are still getting treatment. I'm getting my on-court stuff prepared, foam rollers, making sure all the water's poured, making sure my bottles are done. I'll get dressed once I get on the court. And once game action starts, I'm looking at substitution patterns.
Right.
I'm looking at how many minutes guys are playing. I'm looking at how well guys are playing. Does the guy look fatigued? Does the guy look out of shape? Does the guy get muscled around? Those are the things I'm watching. Typically during timeouts, depending on who's coming off the court, just sort of looking at their affect and looking at where they're at. Just seeing what kind of hydration they need. Like if we've been going up and down a lot, I might go with Gatorade. Like I might push it on them, like, hey, like, you know, you need Gatorade. If the last sequence of plays wasn't as up tempo, you know, and I know a guy, you know, we want to keep him lean, I might not push Gatorade on him. It's like, you know, just go with water. Just go with water this trip. If a guy's a high cramper, you know, if he has, you know, high chances of cramping, I'll have stuff ready for that as well. I check in with him, like, do you need your endurance formula? You know, is that something you need right now? You know, let me get it. No, but just having it ready. You know, just always being ready. If a guy needs to get stretched out, you're just always you're not a fan. You're not a fan during game day. You know, sometimes you know you can get caught up in watching the action, but you're a coach too. You know, so you're a coach with a different perspective, but you're still a coach. You know, you still want to know how guys are doing throughout the game. So that's typically what I'm watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
And post game, give an example of what a specific meal would be for maybe like a guard, the bigs or something.
Awesome.
It might be
awesome
different.
Question. Yeah. So postgame meals, take a look at the stat sheet. That'll tell you what you need to eat. Right. You know, if you look in the minutes column and you see a 0, it's probably not good to go with the lasagna, and the spaghetti and the meatballs and the garlic bread. You know, if you look at your name and you see the stat sheet, you see 32 minutes, 35 minutes, go for it. You know, you need to replenish your body. Your body's expended all of those energy stores, and we get that back through carbohydrates. There's this big myth, I don't know who started it, that you don't need carbohydrates. You can throw that out with all the other junk that's out on social media. Your body definitely needs carbohydrates. That's what you use to play the game of basketball. Yes, protein is important, but if you're playing, again, 32 to 35 minutes, carbohydrates are more important than protein in that sense. So start with your carbs to replenish your body. Then, yes, absolutely, go for your servings of protein after that. But again, it's based off of that. It's based off that stat sheet. I'm not going to recommend a post-game meal for a guy who didn't play the same as a guy who played 35 minutes. I'm not going to recommend the portion size of a guard, the same portion size of a big man, who played the same amount of minutes. So you got to look at all those different factors. I wish it were as simple as just one meal for everybody, and just go at it. But you got to look in depth, and then you can look at it from a sense of possessions, right? Like you can play 35 minutes, but if you're playing a slow tempo game, and you're walking it up the court, setting screens, or is it an up tempo game? Was it a lot of up and down? Was the final score 132 to 141? This is the way we don't want 132 points, but we want to play up tempo. So if it was an up tempo game, if it was an up tempo game and it was 41 minutes of an up tempo game, that's going to feel a lot different than 41 minutes of a slow tempo game. So these are all the things that you want to take into account for your post-game meal.
All right. Well, we're going to interrupt this for a brief.
Sure.
Let everybody catch their breath. We'll let you two catch your breath. You guys are watching the Focus TV. We're here with Coach Vincent Williams from Capital City Go-Go. See you guys on the other side of the break.
All right, welcome back. We're going to continue our interview with Vincent Williams. Stretching, there's different forms that a lot of people, talk about, ballistic, dynamic, static. What are some of the forms you use, and which is most effective for basketball players?
Basketball is a game that's played upright. You're on your feet. My stretching approach, the three most important parts of your body are your ankle, your hips, and your upper back, right? Mm-hmm. How do we know this? Because what do most basketball players get? Knee injuries, low back injuries, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at the knee, it's trapped in between the hip and the ankle, right? Mm-hmm. If you I'd say 9 out of 10 basketball players have tight ankles and have tight hips. That's a lot of times what can contribute to knee pain. Same thing with the low back. Where's it between? It's between your hips and it's between your upper back, right? So if a basketball player 9 times out of 10 has low back trouble, I'm gonna look at the hips, I'm gonna look at the T-spine to see what kind of function what kind of function they have at those two joints. Reason being, the ankle, hip, and T-spine are supposed to be mobile joints, right? So those are the joints that are supposed to move, supposed to be able to bend in 3 dimensions. The thing about the game of basketball is sometimes those joints don't do that. Our bodies are naturally compensating. Our bodies naturally compensate, I'll say that. So what happens is if an ankle joint isn't doing what it's supposed to do, all that happens is the knee joint now compensates. So now a knee joint is trying to be a mobile joint when it's not. It's supposed to be a stable joint, right? So a knee joint tries to become mobile, right? That's when you run into knee pain a lot of times, right? But what's happening is that ankle joint or that hip joint a lot of times isn't giving you the motion that it's supposed to give you. So now your low back is compensating, trying to give you motion. Your knee is trying to compensate, trying to give you motion. If you get through the ankle joint, if you get through the hip joint a lot of times, that's where our warm-ups start for me. So I work from the ground up. So we're upright 9 out of 10 times. I always say 9 out of 10 times because sometimes, yes, we'll switch it up. We'll get on the ground, we'll do some different stuff. But we'll start with ankle moves. So just stretching off the wall, stretching in different directions. Don't always, basketball is a game that's played here, it's played here. You rotate, you run, you skip, you hop, you jump, you do all these different things. That's what you have to integrate into your stretching as well. So you can't just stretch your ankle purely in one plane. You got to stretch it in all 3 planes. Frontal plane, side to side, our sagittal plane, which is front to back, and then our transverse plane in rotation. So stretching the ankle, the hip, and the T-spine, make sure you're stretching in all those 3 directions. After that, we'll move to what we call glute and trunk activation. So the glute is the most powerful muscle on the body, but it's also one of the most underused muscles on the body, right? A lot of people compensate through their low back a lot of times, right? So make sure glutes are firing for different actions. So we'll start with like a mini band, external rotation for the glutes, just to make sure the glutes are firing. Then from the glutes, we'll move into what I like to call locomotor patterns, right? So basketball, you're running front to back, you're running side to side, you skip, you hop, you jump. So these are all things that you can integrate into your warm-up. So you don't have to jump always with your feet even, right? Yeah. 9 times out of 10 when you jump, like if you're just playing a game of basketball, your feet don't always land like this, right? So you jump, have your feet land staggered, have your feet land wide, integrate all those different things into your warm-up so that when you do it on the court, now your body's prepared for it. Right. So those are the 3 things I always try to hit as far as a stretching routine goes. That ankle, hip, and T-spine, that glute activation, and then just different locomotor patterns.
Hydration.
Yes.
You rarely see players carrying water like they should.
Yes.
I mean, they normally have Gatorade or Body Armor or something like that. How much
Gatorade.
Water should?
I'll tell you why.
How much water should a ball player drink a day? And obviously during gamer practices, when how do they switch back and forth? Know when to switch back and forth with water and then Gatorade.
Absolutely. Your hydration level, the amount of water you should take in is going to be based off of your body weight. Right. I'm going to be honest, I forgot what the number is. It's based off of fluid ounces. It's some calculation based off your body weight, but your water intake should definitely be based off your body weight. All my colleagues will get on me for not knowing that. But hydration, as far as your water intake the number one key I think people need to realize is for your water intake, you need to drink before you're thirsty. If you're thirsty, it's already too late, right? So hydrating, what I mean by that, hydrating constantly as opposed to just drinking water when you're thirsty, right? As far as Gatorade goes, we need to treat Gatorade more like medicine, right? Meaning that Gatorade should be used during physical activity. Gatorade has a ton of sugar, right? Why is sugar so bad for you? Sugar is inflammatory. What I mean by inflammatory, your body rejects it, right? Your body naturally makes sugar. Why do you have to put copious amounts of sugar already into your body? So when you drink Gatorade, when you're just relaxing, really you don't really need it because you're not expending energy, right? One way to know just how much sugar is in Gatorade, I think your typical 16-ounce bottle has about 38 grams of sugar. 1 gram of sugar is 3 teaspoons, right? So if you took 3 teaspoons times 38, that's how much is in that small little bottle of Gatorade, right? And if you're just drinking that right before you go to bed, you're pumping all that sugar into your body, you're not going to even burn it off, right? So now think about using that Gatorade during gameplay. So that's why, like if a guy's, like we were just talking about last segment, if a guy's coming off, he looks a little tired, yeah, you might push Gatorade as a direction in opposition to water. But if you're outside of actually being in competition or practice or workout, then it's water. If you're during that practice or workout or whatever it is, then yeah, go ahead and go with your Gatorade.
Okay. Proper foods that basketball players, what are some of the foods that you feel like basketball players should focus on daily to make sure they can perform at their peak?
Absolutely. Same thing. Where are you at during the day? So like if you're either going into a workout or you're coming out of a workout, you need to give your body the proper fuel source, your carbohydrates, right? What are carbs, your potatoes, your rice. I tend to stick away from pasta. I'm not going to say it's a terrible food, but it's something I tend to stick away from. Breads are also a form of carbohydrates. Those are another carbs you can use. Going into a game or practice or workout or coming out of 3 hours after that game or practice or workout ends, those are the times you want to go with your carbohydrates. Your protein you eat all throughout the day. It doesn't have to be, interval workout or before a workout. Protein, that's how we rebuild our muscle, right? So those are the times you can eat protein all throughout the day. What are proteins? Obviously poultry, fish. For our vegans out there, you can go with the vegetable protein supplements, the pea proteins, things like that. Excuse me. Then you move to your fats. Right, so what are fats? I just tell people fats are just sauces, right? Butter, oils, Alfredo sauce, those are just your sauces. Just think of fat as sauce, right? When is a good time to have fat? After your workout, right? Why do I say after your workout? I have never seen someone sauce down food before a workout and go into their workout and be successful. Fat slow you down, right? They make you sluggish, so those are something you want to avoid until after your workout to replenish your body.
Okay. Workouts.
Yes.
How long should sessions go? Because you got guys going 2 hours, 3 hours, crazy amount of time, and risking overtraining. So how long is a good amount of time for a basketball player to train?
Let's break it down. So where are we at during our training calendar, right? Are we in season? You could train, if you're in season, you could train every day, right? You don't have to go for 30 minutes every day. You can do something for a quick 10 minutes, quick 15 minutes, but you do it every day. That's your routine. You can go that route, right? You can go with basic 2 to 3 times a week, right? What are you doing within those workouts? Your basic workout for me, we call push-pull, a knee down exercise, a hip down exercise, and a trunk exercise, right? So you push anything you pull into your body. So a chin up, a row, a dumbbell row exercise. You push, a push up, a press and exercise, anything going away from your body, right? Our hip down exercises, your RDLs, your trap bar deadlifts, your lunges, sometimes depending on how you vary it. Then you have your knee dominant exercises, your squats. You can do single leg squats, different variations of squats, typically on your knee dominant exercises. And then the core exercise is something real basic, a plank. For the more advanced people who will pay off press, all those things. If you hit those 5 and you hit them with the right intensity during the season, 30 minutes, is your max. Once you get out of season, those are typically when you start to train a little bit longer, right? Because you're not going to be on the court as much, workouts, you're not working out as often. That's when you can start to incorporate two exercises of each. So 2 knee dominants, 2 hip dominants, 2 pushes, 2 pulls throughout the course of the workout. That might take up to an hour.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna take one more break. This is the break. Shout out to Jamal Hayward. This is the 9-4-50, which we've been so blessed with him having. We truly enjoyed this, I think, for like half of last year, and then having it full of this year. It's always something neat. There's always a nugget to be taken out of it. But this week's move from Jamal Hayward over at 9-4-50 is break off, turnaround, fade, shot out the mid post. Say it one more time. It's a break off, turnaround, fade, shot out of the mid post. Right after that, we'll take a quick break, and then we're going to conclude tonight's show with the rest of this conversation with Vincent Williams, strength and conditioning coach over at the Capital City Go-Go.
All right, today we're going to discuss a fadeaway jump shot. So we're going to work out the mid-post area. So a couple things that's important. When you get the ball here, make sure that you have your defender sealed. Make sure you're in a low position. So first things I like to do is give the defender a nice little bump, a back down dribble. So back down dribble. The next important thing is I'm going to fade away towards the middle. So after I take that dribble, big step with your right foot to the inside of the paint. So I like to call it a kick out. So after I take that dribble, kick the foot out, turn, fade. So it is live speed. Go on the other side. Same thing. Back down dribble, kick, fade. Today we're going to discuss a fadeaway jump shot. So we're going to work out the mid-post area. So a couple things that's important. When you get the ball here, make sure that you have your defender sealed. Make sure you're in a low position. So first things I like to do is give the defender a nice little bump, a back down dribble. So back down dribble. The next important thing is I'm going to fade away towards the middle. So after I take that dribble, big step with your right foot to the inside of the paint. So I like to call it a kick out. So after I take that dribble, kick the foot out, turn, fade. So it is live speed. Go on the other side. Same thing. Back down dribble, kick, fade.
All right, again, thank you to Jamal Hayward over the 9-4-50. Truly appreciate that. And now for the conclusion of this very informative hour we've had with strength and conditioning coach at Capital City Go-Go, Vincent Williams.
Cardio-wise, I don't know if y'all chart this, how many miles a player runs on average during the game. But based on that, how much cardio is needed from a basketball player to perform as a pro?
So on the NBA side, within each arena, they have monitors that track how many miles each guy runs during the course of the game, which is really cool. What happens is those mileage have been built into we call it like a workload profile for each guy. So if a guy's running, 3-4 miles a game just over the course of a game, we're typically not going to give him extra conditioning. We call it conditioning during the course of the season, just because he's getting his conditioning during the game. a lot of basketball strength coaches are working away. I won't say working away from, but we're relying more on basketball to condition the athletes, as opposed to, have them run, the mile test, which is antiquated, and I'll battle you down to, because I've had coaches battle me on that, as opposed to the mile test. When are you ever going to, run around the track over the course of a basketball game? There's no carryover for that. What does give you carryover? Pick up, individual sessions. You can structure individual sessions, and what I'm finding is a lot of sport coaches would much rather prefer to do those sessions, right? There are conditioning drills that you can do as a strength coach with basketball players, but with even me, I'm trying to lean more on the sport coach to condition the athlete. Now, in the sense where you do have that guy, again, we check that stat sheet, you have that guy who didn't play, the DEP, yes, then we're going to do some conditioning post-game or either the day after. What are we looking for? We're looking for what we call high-intensity bouts, repeat high-intensity bouts. So we can put a guy on what we call an assault bike, like the old-school air-down bikes. Yeah. And we can have a guy go hard for 10 seconds, right? And then we'll have him rest for 30 to 40 seconds. And we want to see multiple repeat efforts, and then we can structure it like the course of a quarter, right? So we can give a guy, 8 and say that's your first quarter, right? We can give a guy another 8 and say, all right, that's your second quarter. And we'll make the break longer, like it's their halftime, and we'll call that like a game day conditioning. So we can sort of get creative like that.
Okay. Yeah. What's a proper post-game regimen?
Proper post-game regimen? Yeah. Lifting-wise?
No, just it could be lifting depending on the player, like you said, how they play.
Again, you take a look at that stat sheet. For a guy, my high-minute guys, as far as lifting goes, we just go old school pump session, right? Biceps, triceps, deltoids. I know people get on me. What about movement in 3 dimensions? Sometimes you just got to take it back. They've already played, they've already expended themselves, they've moved enough, right? They just want to get a good old-fashioned pump in, and we'll leave it at that. For someone who is sort of in the middle, we can kind of mix it up a little bit as far as what we do, depending on what style of player they are they a post guy, are they a guard, how do they play that game. If they did a lot of movement on the court, then I'm going to try to do the reverse in the weight room. So for someone, who's in a lot of ball screens, a lot of actions, a lot of those type of actions, a lot of reactionary stuff, we probably won't do a lot of high intensity stuff in the weight room. It'll probably be something real simple, a couple sets of trap bar deadlift, a couple chins, a couple core exercises, keep them stationary, and then get out. So whatever they did on the court, we're trying to do the reverse in the weight room. That's typically how post-game goes.
Okay. After a long season, how much time do you recommend a player take off before getting back in the gym?
Great question. I have to go to my guy, Matt Johnson, he was at GW, he's now the
Butler.
Matt Butler, yep. Yeah. He'll say whenever a guy's ready. Now what happens is when you say that, you got to know your athlete, right? So if you know a guy, who's going to try to talk his way out of some stuff, that's might not the approach you want to go with,
not ready yet.
But if you have a great culture like he does, when guys are ready, they'll come back to you. It's typically about 2 weeks. This is like guys decompress, get away from the game, so that way it stays fresh. When you do, because I want a guy. When he comes back to me and he says he's ready to train, I want him ready to train. I don't want to have to deal with, I'm not feeling this today. I want to motivate. I want him ready to go. So I'm not going to push it too much. But typically, the science says you don't want to go past a month because you start to get what we call detraining. So usually anywhere within, and when you do come back in 2 weeks, you're not like full bore, like middle of an off season. You come back with some light stuff just so you get your body moving. But anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, I would say.
Okay, this is all for you. What are some myths and truths about training basketball players?
Myths. Number 1 myth: lifting will affect your jump shot. That is the number 1 myth. I have a guy who I trained, I'm not going to say his name, but he was shooting 60% from 3, and he would lift every other day. Right? So 60% from 3. Steph Curry has a 500-pound deadlift, right? So I'll say no more. Lifting has nothing to do with your jump shot. What's wrong with your jump shot is your jump shot. Not what we doing the way you do. The truth, lifting does help your recovery. And by recovery, I mean your recovery from a game, your recovery from an injury, your recovery to the next practice. Reason being, if you look at muscle, right, the more efficient a muscle is, the less you get sore, right? So if I'm training my body, if I'm taxing my body constantly, when I put my body in these situations and I'm coming out super sore all the time, but if I'm training, my body's constantly, I'm constantly training my body and doing the right things, then it minimizes my recovery, whether it's from an injury or from a game or whatever it is. My body's in tip-top shape, you know, I'm always gonna be recovered, I'm always gonna be ready to go. So I would say those are my two biggest ones.
Okay.
All right, well, first off, thank you
Well,
for coming in tonight. I'm sure you need a drink of water after all this stuff. But I know we definitely appreciate it. It was very insightful, extremely informative. And I hope all those watching, if you just take a couple nuggets away, definitely appreciate the myth, and the truths, because we talk all the time here, no matter what's going on, there's just so much fake information, and, so much misinformation out there, no matter what the subject is on, that it's just out there, it is always to the detriment of somebody.
Definitely.
So I want to thank you so much for coming in. Wish you
appreciate it.
continued success the rest of the way.
Thank you.
You're always welcome back here. I want to thank you all of y'all for tuning in. As always, get over to finestmag.com, get over to MyMonoSports.com. What I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're going to try to do a little bit more on digital going forward. So go ahead and make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think it could be called the Focus Minutes, or Minutes with the Focus. Should be fun. And we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Appreciate you guys again for spending an hour here with us. Focus TV.